Hello everyone, this is the sixth video of my web development question series. Today I'm going to do the sixth video of the first day of the web development question list. Let's go to the web development question list. Here's the question list. I'm going to select the question 6. Okay, this is the question 6 of the first day. As usual, I'm going to read it first and then show you how I done the answer for this question. The management of the ABC company has proposed to add a calculator as an extension of the website. The company's IT department is working to meet this requirement. You are required to design a calculator as indicated below. Hover effect. Button scale should be increased by 1.1 at 0.3 seconds. Color should be changed at blue at 0.3 seconds. Font color should be changed to white. Cursor pointer. Button active effect. Button background color should be changed to red. When a button is pressed, its number should be appeared on the screen. Your calculator should be able to do percentage calculation, division, multiplication, adding and subtraction functions. And here they provided a sample design to refer. Okay, I think you understand the question. We have to create a simple web application, simple calculator as a web application. Now I'm going to show you my answer. Before that, I have to tell you this video is going to be a bit longer than the usual videos because I'm going to explain the code lines one by one. Okay, let's go to the answer. Here I'm going to the answer. Here's the calculator I created for this question, and you can see I used JavaScript to create this calculator. First I'm going to show you how my calculator functions. Let's enter some values like 12. You can see when I press a button, it changes its background color to red, and when I'm hovering over it, you can see its scale is going up and background color changes to blue. So if you go and check the question again, you can see they specifically told us to add these changes to the button. Here you can see the button scale should be increased by 1.1 at 0.3 seconds, and color should be changed to blue at 0.3 seconds in the hover effect. And when the button active, it means the button is clicked. The button background color should change to red. I'm going to do that again. Here you can see when I'm hovering over, it changes to blue, and when I click on it, you can see it changes to red. Okay, that's how that works. Here's the clear button. When I click it, all the values on the display is going to 0. Let's enter some value like 12 plus 26 equal 38, and 75 minus 45 equal 30, and 5 multiplied by 4 equal 20, and 85 divided by 6 equal 14.1.6. And here's the percentage button. If I enter 10 and select the percentage button, it's going to tell us it's 0.1% of the value of 100. and here's the decimal point button. By using this, we can calculate decimal numbers like this. I'm going to input 14.5 multiply by 2 equal 29. Like that, we can use decimal points too. Okay, that's how my calculator functions. Let's see how I wrote the code. This is the VS Code, and I'm going to show you the project file of my calculator. Here's the question 6, and here's the index page. These are the buttons I created for the calculator. You can see I didn't use a HTML table, but I added some CSS classes and use CSS to place the buttons of my calculator. You can see I linked CSS file and the JavaScript file to this PHP index page, and let's go to the CSS file first. There's nothing complicated in this CSS file, but you can see here's the way I created the hover effect and the click effect. I use the main container. It means I created a class and assigned it to a div, and all of my components in my calculator is inside that main container. Then I call the main container and all its buttons by calling the element button. And you can see here I set padding, font weight with background color. These are the default appearance of the buttons in my calculator, and here I define the hover effect by adding background color to blue, by changing background color to blue and the font color to white. And you can see I use transform scale in order to enlarge the button by 1.1 of its usual scale. And here you can see I added a transition duration and set it to 0.3 milliseconds, 0.3 seconds, and I defined the cursor to pointer. And you can see then I created the active state of my button. Here you can see the main container and the buttons inside of it. When the active state, when the button is active, the background color is going to change to crimson, and the font color is going to black. That's how I created the hover effect and the active state effect. Let's go to the JavaScript. This is the file where I defined all the functions of my calculator, and you can say everything in the calculator is a function because of this file. I'm going to review it from the top. If we go to the first line, you can see I created a new variable called display and assigned an HTML object by calling its ID display. Let's see what is the display. What is the display? Here you can see there's a div called div which have the display ID. This is the display of my calculator. You can see in this gray box. This is the display, and I'm assigned it to a variable called display by calling its ID. Let's go to the next line. You can see I started creating functions for this calculator. These are the functions I use to perform the operations of my calculator. Let's see, the first function is called display clear. In this function you can see I created another variable called value, and I assign the same display object into this variable value. But the specialty of this code is I'm not going to assign the complete object to the value variable. Instead of that, I command it to assign the value inside the HTML tag of the element which have the display ID. It means when the function is called, it's going to insert the values inside this div into that value variable. Okay, let's see the next part. You can see then I created a if condition. I use this condition to check the value inside the display box. You can see I set the if value and give it a condition. If the value not equals 0, it's going to run the code inside of it. If the value equals 0, it's not going to do anything inside the if condition. It means if this condition is true, the value equals 0. It means the value by this line it's going to change the, or we can say it's going to reassign the value of the variable called value to 0. And in the next line I put the modified value inside the display box by this line display.innerHTML equal value. It means going to put the value inside the variable called value and put it inside the HTML tag of the element we assign to the variable called display. You can see I managed to access the first line, the display object inside this function. It's because the first variable I created is not inside a function or anything like that. They are called global variables. A global variable can be accessed from anywhere in this file. That's why I created the display variable first. Okay, that's how the display clear function works. And you can see in the button called C, I put the display clear function equals to a on click attribute. That means if the C button is clicked, it's going to run the display clear function, the function we talk about right now. And here's how it operates. When when there's a number inside the display, in the display we can click on the C button. It's also called the clear button. It's going to clear the value and change it to the default value. And if the value is already 0, it's not going to do anything, because in this function you can see the if condition is only going to be executed if the value not equals 0. When the value is equal to 0, it's not going to do anything. So that's how the display clear function works. And let's go to the next function. It's called for display. This is the function I use to insert the numbers to the display. Like when I click on these numbers, you can see those numbers are inputted into the display. It's because the for display function is called every time I click on one of these buttons. Okay, let's go to the for display function. Here's the for display function. The specialty of this function is I inputted a value when this function is called, and I assign it to a variable called bval. You can see in the index page, every button I set on click function and made it to call the for display function with the value of its button. You can see when the 7 button is clicked, it's going to input the number 7 to the for display function as the input. And then I called a function called remove 0. This is another function I created. You can see in the next function, this is the remove 0 function. If we go to the remove 0 function, you can see I made the previous variable called value in this function 2 and assign the values inside the display, actually inside the view the display, and assign it to the variable called value. And then I defined a if condition, and it says if the value equals to 0, it's going to run the code inside of it. It is the value is going to set to empty space. It means the value is not going to hold any number, and then the empty value variable is going to be the new value showing in the display. I managed to do that by commanding this line display.innerHTML equals value. It means I command it to change the value inside the display to the empty variable called value, and it's going to set the value of the display. If it's equal to 0 or if it's 0, it's going to set an empty value. It's going to erase the value of the display, and that's how the remove 0 function works. And the remove 0 function is going to call inside the for display function, and then when the 0 function is going to be empty, when the 0 is not going to be in the display, then I command to insert the value which is inputted when the for display function work and add it to the value of the display. This means like this, when I click on these buttons, you can see it's going to add the value of this button to the display, and that's because the for display function is calling every time I click on one of these buttons. And if the value equals 0, it's not going to do anything. It stays as the 0, and when I click on another value which isn't 0, it's going to remove the 0 and place the value. I place the value of the button I pressed in the display like this. When I press on the 5, you can see the 0 value is changed to 5. That's how the for display function works. And let's see the other function. This is the function I created. It's called rec. This function is going to set the percentage value of the button of the percentage button. You can see I created the variable called value again. This is the same method I used to assign or store the existing value inside the display. And then I created another variable called new prec, and it's also can call new percentage equal value divided by 100. You know the percentage is always going to be calculated by dividing the existing value by 100. Then I assign it to the new variable called new percentage, and then assign it to the display. And if we go to the answer, you can see when I press 5 and press the percentage button, it's going to show the value by dividing the 5 from 100. And that's how the percentage function works. And let's go to the last function. It's called the answer. This is the function which calculates the answer, the final answer of a calculator. And as usual, I assign the existing values to a variable of the display to a new variable called value, and then I created another variable called new answer, And here you can see I used a predefined function in JavaScript. It's called eval. This eval function is going to calculate the answer when we input two values with the operator, also called we can say a mathematical operator we want to calculate, and then inserted into the eval function. It's going to identify the mathematical function and perform the calculation by adding or dividing or multiply according to the mathematical operator between the two values of our answer. Let's see how that works. By enter a value first, 85, and then multiply. This is the mathematical operator. Multiply and enter the other value. We can enter 6 like this, and when I press on the equal or answer button, it's going to run the prequel function by inputting this value into the function, and it's going to calculate the answer for this statement. And when I press on the equal button, you can see the answer. It's 510. That's how the answer works, and that's all for this video. I think you will understand how my calculator works, and thank you for watching this video.